Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins! The Crimson Tide will not be denied.
Good snap, good hold, and the kick is blocked. Appalachian State has stunned the college football world. One of the greatest upsets in sports history. Blocked by Corey Lynch.
Good evening, my friends and potentially enemies, since I am an Ohio State fan, and welcome to this impromptu live stream. And I think the topic is pretty goddamn obvious at this point. If you have been under a rock since about 5 o'clock Eastern time and are just now stumbling into this stupid YouTube show, I will go ahead and give you the laydown. Nick Saban, head coach of Alabama, the final boss of college football, has shockingly announced his retirement. We are going to be talking about this on this stream. We're going to be taking comments and questions from everybody in the community that is stopping by to say hello. And we're also going to have a guest, a good friend of mine by the name of Alan Nadeau. And we're going to go ahead.
Nobody.
Now, what's going on, buddy?
NATO.
Nadeau, whatever.
It's
Nadeau,
like the organ-
Nadeau. I don't.
It's like the
I prefer to use the. I prefer to use the phrase that doesn't remind me of a certain political organization that could piss off people. So we're
Yeah,
gonna stick with
that's
Nadeau.
fair. That's fair. I mean, that's kind of how 5 Points pronounce it. There's also Jerry Nadeau, which is the former NASCAR driver that I may or may not be related to, that I've been asked about many a time. So
Yeah,
I think that's like the closer pronunciation, so I can live with that. But
sure.
anyway,
Sure.
thank you for
Well,
having me on. I do appreciate it.
yeah, thank you for stopping by. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. So we're just gonna get right into it here. I mean, obviously, the title says it itself. Like the fucker is gone. The bad man of most of the continental United States in Alaska and Hawaii is gone. I mean, what was your immediate reaction?
Don't mind me. My mom's getting ready for work in the background.
Okay, well, while she's doing that, I'm going to take a couple of
Yeah,
comments.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about her.
Okay. Okay. What's up then? Say your piece.
Relax. But yeah, no. I was like doing some stuff. I freaking burnt dinner and all this other stuff. But at some point, I look at my phone and I see the Saban announcement. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like football has gone on a massive fucking bender in these last few days because obviously you have Black Monday, all the NFL coaches getting fired, but then Vrabel gets fired. Pete Carroll's now an advisor with the Seahawks. He's no
Yeah,
longer head
he
coach.
he
And
left
then on
today.
the same day, Saban gets fired. Or not fired, retired, sorry. And I'm just like, how the fuck did Belichick outlast him? I mean,
I
it
don't
would be
know.
hilarious if they retire together, just a day or two apart. But like, what the fuck?
I
I
know.
thought Saban was
I
gonna
know.
die Alabama's head coach. No joke.
I know. Yeah. I mean, this is a day that I like. Here's the thing. This is a day that everybody knew was going to happen at some point, right? Like, Mitch, welcome back to the show. Appreciate you being here, buddy. Never thought this day would come. I knew this day was going to come. Saban is 72. Nobody is like Joe Paterno, infamous Joe Paterno, but I'm going to mention him. Um, that can go until they're in their mid 80s. Some of these guys, especially now in the current landscape of college football, are just not able to adapt like a lot of people are. So I'm not gonna say I'm surprised that it happened. I'm surprised it happened like this, out of nowhere, with no prior announcement, no hints, nothing. There are people that I heard on the Paul Feinbaum show, which is the only network on ESPN and the only show on ESPN that was actually talking about this as it was breaking down, that it was getting live reactions from, and everybody was trying to say, well, he wasn't acting like the normal Nick Saban, like he was trying to take it all in. He wasn't hyper focused on his mission.
Yeah.
I don't buy that for a fucking second. I know he was hyper focused. I mean, this man is professional.
Yeah.
He is the GOAT. He is, this generation's Bear Bryant, like I said a little bit ago in my video that I just uploaded before I went live. And that was a pretty rushed together video, but it's a pretty rushed together kind of news day. Akbar, welcome back to the show, my friend. Oh, didn't realize that was a comment. I hit the wrong one.
That's related
Okay,
to the
he's
Jerry
talking
Navy
shit.
thing.
All right, well, let's go back to Mitch. I mean, it's obvious that I ain't a Bama fan, but holy crap, a legend just left. I wonder what would become of the Tide. So I did touch on this briefly. NDF. I'm almost sad, but then I remember it's Nick Saban. If you're an Alabama fan, you must be sad tonight. That's for damn sure. Look, I'm just going to. I'm just going to say this. Alabama, you've had a good near 2 decade of dominance in college football. That's over with this
Yeah.
retirement. It's done. I do not see, no matter which coach you bring in, this team being able to compete for a national championship next season, primarily because of the rules of the transfer portal.
Yeah. And I have
I
a
mean,
I have a thinking that that's a big reason why Saban's leaving, because he's seeing how like all of the teams that are, the Pac-12 is dead. All of the teams that are transferring to literally transferring to other conferences, and just
Mhm.
it and I think either you posted this on Discord or somebody tweeted about it. Saban, a lot of the older coaches don't want to deal with the NIL. They don't want to deal with all the recruiting when guys are going to leave like a year or two in. Um, and we just got rated by a
We just got
logical.
rated
Oh
by
my
a
fucking
logical.
god!
Thanks, guys. Glad you came over. How y'all doing? Sorry, continue your thought.
No, that's fine. I think that's a big reason why Saban's leaving is he's just at his age and with the way that college football is changing, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not the only one. There's probably going to be some other coaches on the older end of the spectrum that are going to leave in the next several years. And it's just insane because, like I said before, technically, like Belichick outlasted Saban, but the Saban dynasty outlasted the Patriots dynasty with Belichick because that ended when we lost in the wild card game to the Titans in 2019. Alabama kept
Absolutely.
going, and it's even though they lost to Michigan, it's actually fitting that they still made a Final Four appearance because they made it almost every single year of the college football playoff. Win or lose, and
Yeah.
yeah. So at least Saban got back to the top four, you know, but you can tell, I think, between last year and this year, the wheels were starting to fall off. Like this Alabama team should have not been in the Final Four. They should have had two, maybe three losses. Because you had the A&M
Yeah.
game, or not
Yeah.
A&M, the Longhorns game. Sorry, the
Right.
different
They
Texas
lost to
game.
the Longhorns in week 2, I believe it
They
was.
almost lost to Auburn. Didn't they
Hmm.
almost lose to some team from Florida this season?
USF, yeah. South Florida.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
they were in the
the
lead
Vols.
10-3 before they finally got the dagger in at the end. It was an
Yeah,
awful, awful
exactly,
played game. An
exactly. Yeah,
absolutely
so
atrocious
this
game.
team should not have been here, and
I That's a toughie. So we're going back into college football playoff selection territory with that. I don't know for a 100%. Andrew Witten, thank you for subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just got that notification. I don't think that this was a situation where Saban was really on the decline because you got to remember he is still he was still the guy that you wanted to play for coming out of high school. If you were getting recruited by Alabama, 9 times out of 10, that was your first choice, right? A lot of guys that don't have a serious tie to their hometown, and they are probably also guys getting pursued by your Ohio States, your Texases, your A&Ms, your Floridas, your Georgias. Alabama has been the gold standard for college football since at least 2009, 2010 when they won the national championship game against Texas and started the dynasty run. So you got to keep in mind that man has had a dynasty in the palm of his hands for a decade and a half, going on 13, 14 years. He's been there since 2007. I don't think anybody in the right, and I don't think he was really slowing down. I do think Alabama was definitely weaker this season
yeah,
than they have
no,
been. They're not as dominant. I think Georgia did a number once they won back-to-back championships on their recruiting. I think that maybe a couple of coordinators that Saban had underneath of him were not what they needed to be.
yeah. They brought back
Do I
Bill
think that was
O'Brien
a
for a
sign
hot
of
minute, so
Yeah, do I think that was a sign of Nick Saban losing steam and forgetting how to coach. No, no. I think Saban could have easily gone until he died. And I honestly thought that's what was going to happen. I figured Saban was going to coach until he, wound up dead in his office watching film. That's what
Right.
everybody, I think that's what everybody thought. The man is rich. He doesn't need to prove anything, but he has been at that school for so long that when you think Alabama, you think Nick Saban. You don't think Bear Bryant. You think Nick Saban. He is
Yeah,
the face of that school. And now that that face is going away, it is an incredible, incredible change of events for college
yeah. The way
football.
you
Uh,
described it, the way you described it, I kind of compare that to like the way you described Georgia's takeover. I'm gonna make an F1 reference here. It feels like Verstappen when he won his first title and what has
mhm,
happened to Mercedes and what's happened to Lewis Hamilton since. Because now Verstappen's won a few of them, a few championships in a row. And where's Mercedes? They're stuck behind. They're stuck not just behind Red Bull, but they're stuck kind of stuck behind Ferrari as well. Even though Ferrari can't stop shooting themselves in the dick.
mhm,
So it feels
mhm.
like that to some extent, where Georgia finally looked at Alabama and was like Brock Lesnar to Hulk Hogan said, "Party's over, Grandpa." They took over. They took this shit over, and Alabama is now stuck playing second fiddle. And I think Saban has realized, yeah, the game's changing, and I'm too old for this shit. And so, see you later,
Fair.
mom.
Once
And
again,
that's just what happened at this point.
Once again, if you're just tuning in, this is Red 5478, joined my friend Illogical or Alan Nadeau. I'm still thinking about the damn illogical raid that happened a few minutes ago when the logical Canadian and his boys came over from their stream. I was on their stream for a few minutes before I started this one up. I've never been rated before, so that was pretty cool. Thanks again, guys. We're talking about Nick Saban, retirement, and how this could effectively change the entire landscape of college football as we know it. As if it wasn't already going to change enough with the 12-team playoff coming in, with all these conferences turning into mega conferences, the Pac-12 completely falling apart, and the ACC on rickety legs themselves as it is right now. Illogical, Allen. Fuck you. So I believe that it, I don't. Again, I honestly thought that it was Saban's job, no matter for as long as he wanted. There, nobody in their right mind, even if they had got started a 6-6 run, they would not have the balls to fire Nick Saban. Saban was going to leave on his terms and his terms only, and that's what happened. So, at the end of the day, uh, it was going to happen eventually. Either he was going to die watching film in his office, or he was going to retire. He was never going to get fired. They were never going to fall off because, having a coach like that has literally been the high point and the landmark of college football for well over a decade. You're going to generate the recruits. We're going to be live for probably about an hour, guys. So we won't be live for too long tonight. If you got any questions in the chat regarding the topic at hand or anything else going on around college football, please feel free to comment in here and we'll answer them accordingly. Now, going back to the next problem here, so I think we've touched on Nick Saban, the man, and his legacy well enough. We got to talk about this fucking team. This Alabama team is in so much shit right now. Now that this has happened, a reference was made in the video biological Canadian that I uploaded about their one of their coordinators going ahead and leaving as well. I genuinely believe that there is going to be a tidal wave of 5-star, 4-star players leaving Alabama in the very near future. We're probably going to see that transfer portal light up like a damn Christmas tree. Already, 2 recruits that I have seen that were going to join Alabama next season have decommitted and announced they're going to re-sign with a different school and they're going to recommit to another school. So it's already begun. We're not going to know the long-term ramifications for a good bit, but it's definitely going to hurt their future prospects for anybody coming in. Do you think Alabama is going to be able to contain this, coming tsunami of recruit losses, Alan?
Um, Honestly, no. I don't think they will. Largely because of the fact of that I think so there's this new docu-series that's coming out soon about the Patriots dynasty. And I'm making this reference because I saw this So like there's a quote that came out from it from Danny
Speaking
Amendola.
of Mitch fan,
Something
I hope
about
Saban doesn't pull a
like
Brady and say, "Just kidding, I'm going to return one more time." I agree. I don't think he's going to do that.
yeah, no, Saban's not gonna do it. But there's
No.
a quote from Danny Amendola in one of those episodes that's gonna come out. And it's so I forget the part regarding the first half of the quote about Bill, but he ends the quote saying we played for Tom. I think that and I think that in some ways it's like, the players they go to Alabama to play for Saban, and now that Saban's not there, goodbye. See ya. Especially because again, Georgia's now the top dog in the whole freaking SEC.
Oh, absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely.
I think, yeah. I think
Yeah,
Tennessee should theoretically improve. I mean, Missouri did well this year, so they should get some of the windfall. Florida's Florida, they'll figure it out. And then in
hmm
Alabama's own fucking side of the conference, which I know conferences are kind of going away, but Ole Miss,
divisions. You mean
LSU,
divisions?
A&M, Auburn, or sorry, yeah, divisions. I mean, like most of the teams that were on their side of the SEC are gonna benefit. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I would think, LSU's got to get their shit together, but like, Ole Miss should be able to take over. I don't think Texas A&M is going to do well for quite a while, considering all that money they're paying Jimbo not to coach. So
Yeah.
but then
Goddamn.
again, everybody answers to Georgia. Everybody's going to
Yes.
answer to Georgia in the SEC,
Yes. Yes.
including
I
the
think it's
teams that
still
are coming
Georgia's
in.
conference to lose. It's still Georgia's
Exactly.
conference to lose. Let's not get our hopes up too high. Somebody else is going to play Georgia in the SEC championship next year. But I mean, Josh Smith, welcome to the show. I think this is the first time I've seen you here. Happy to have you. Hopefully, Ryan Williams flips from Bama to Auburn. I believe that's one of the recruits that already decommitted on Twitter
Yeah, I think that was
a
the
little over an
receiver.
hour ago. I don't, he'll go. I know that Ole Miss has already publicly touted, hey, come to the SIP, come to Mississippi. We got Lane Kiffin. We got something really good building up here. It's not just propaganda. I'm pretty sure a lot of it's propaganda, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
But I'm allergic to bullshit. I think I'm going to sneeze at that. But my whole fucking theory here is just Georgia's going to still be, for the lack of a better phrase, the top dog going into 2024, 2025. What about who can stand up to this team? I do believe Missouri has a real shot. They took down arguably a weakened Ohio State, but nonetheless a good Ohio State team with a very good
Yeah.
defense, had most of their starters on the field, and a offense that, granted, our quarterback was the backup quarterback in that game, but they were able to shut down the running attack pretty effectively, and they got some pretty good players on their offensive side of the ball that they can hang with. Ole Miss, and this brings me to Armstrong Addy. Welcome back, Armstrong. Any chance Lane is gone? No. No.
Definitely not.
No. That's something I was going to get on in a second here, but I don't think Lane Kiffin's going to go anywhere. I think a lot of these coaches that they're just throwing names out right now are not going to go anywhere. But I'll tell you who I do think is going somewhere in a minute. In terms of recruiting and transfers, there's not going to be a whole lot of opportunities for Alabama to be able to convince these guys that, we're going to be fine. They got 30 days to declare for a transfer and find a team. That is a really short window for you to be able to find a new home for the upcoming season. Granted, there's another open window in May at the end of the academic school year where these players could stick around through spring ball and then decide, yeah, it's not for me, and then they could transfer anyways. We're not sure what the long-term ramifications are yet, but I agree. I don't think there's any way Alabama's going to be able to stop some of their stars from leaving because they weren't so much committed. And this is a place for this is something I hear a lot. A lot of these players don't go to these schools to play for the school. They go to the school to play for the coach that visited them on their mom's couch in the summer and
Oh,
fall
exactly. Yeah.
prior to the season.
Especially now with
That is
NIL.
who they buy in for. They don't buy in because Alabama has a good academic program. They don't buy in because they are a excellent school to go to, that their fraternities are great brotherhoods. They buy in And they don't even buy in really for the team. They buy in for the coaches, for the people that work for this team. And if you are a student athlete at the University of Alabama, right now, your eyes are wandering. You're thinking, man, I don't know if I'm even going to play next year. I don't know who this fucker is that's even going to come in yet. They may not announce somebody for days. I got 30 days to make up my mind. I'm going to declare, and I'm just going to test my waters in another team that's probably going to win a national championship. This is the other thing that these players came to Alabama to do, to win rings. And they're not going to win rings at Alabama next season. And a lot of them are seniors or they're juniors that are or they're going to be juniors and become eligible for the draft at the end of next season. So those junior, senior star players, their eyes are naturally going to wander. And there's not a goddamn thing they can do to stop it unless you bring in a big name, which that brings us to the next point that I wanted to talk about. Who the fuck is going to be the sacrificial lamb to take this job? I mean, good
I'm going to say
Lord. You talk
something
about.
right the fuck now. And I've seen his
Okay.
name get thrown around. Alabama, you better keep your fucking hands off of our Dan Lanning. He is ours. He belongs to Oregon. He is ours. Mine.
Oh my God.
Mine.
Josh, I'm glad you're here too, buddy. Thanks for coming.
I am not
Missouri
ready
combined
for
opponent
Oregon to
records
lose
for the year
him.
is
Please,
65
dear
and 84,
God.
the only SEC
God
team with a
fucking help me.
negative. Wow, that's interesting, Josh. That's a good point. I forgot that Alan is a Oregon fan.
Yes,
Dude, I
Oregon.
hate to tell you. I hate to tell you. I think Dan Lanning is gonna go.
Oh, I
I think
know.
he's
I
gonna go.
know. It's the inevitable.
I
I mean, see here's the thing, and here's why I think it makes sense. Look at what was essentially a wrestling promo that he cut before Oregon played Colorado, and like
yeah.
if Alabama's looking for someone that's got the intensity of Saban, that's got the balls of Saban, that can get shit done, unless you're playing fucking Washington, Lanning's probably your guy, and that's what scares me. Is mm,
Well, let me
oh,
give you a little bit of. Let me get you a little bit of piece here. Dan Lanning's contract buyout's $20 million. That is not a little bit. Okay, Alabama would need to fork over $20 million. Now, that's something that Alabama could definitely do if they're hell bent on getting Dan Lanning. But that's not a small price to pay. I mean, you look at some of these other names that are out there. Your Lane
I've
Kiffin,
seen
your
people
Dabo
throw Kalen DeBoer
Sweeties.
around from Washington, and
DeBoer is an
I've even
option as
seen
well. That
yeah,
people are, everyone's high on Dan Lanning. DeBoer is a good option. Washington's going to be in a bit of a rut next season after losing all their players.
exactly,
Harbaugh
and
to Alabama, that
good
honestly is
God,
not out of the question. It's honestly
I
not
mean,
because you think about it. Harbaugh's eyes were already wandering. He just beat Saban in the Rose Bowl, and he knows the game. He knows how to recruit. He took a Michigan team that was in the dumps and was just barely getting along at 500 goodness for years, losing to Ohio State. And Harbaugh beat him with old school Big Ten football, with the huddle. Saban even admitted we got beat because Harbaugh ran all their plays out of the huddle. We hadn't faced that all season, which blew me away when he said that. So I'm like, God damn, Nick, what the fuck? And
yeah, I
if
think
you're
that's
getting,
a
maybe that's
loop.
like he went literally back to old school football and beat him with the huddle in the Rose Bowl. That had a fuck ton of motions and disguises that they also threw in there. They were moving so much in the backfield in their playoff games and all season long, disguising their shit that I can't even keep up with it when I was doing the live stream for the games. I, ew, no, ew. Harbaugh is going to the NFL. Armstrong,
Armstrong.
we don't know.
Here's the thing, Armstrong. Somebody pointed this out on Twitter when Harbaugh was talking to the media on the field after the national championship game. Some people are pointing out that Harbaugh's like, without actually saying it, has essentially already alluded to he's not leaving Michigan. He's not going to the NFL. He's not going anywhere else. He's staying at his alma mater and I don't blame him. You just won a national title. You had through all the bullshit, and as you can see on the screen on the left side, Charlie Baker came out today and said they won fair and square. We're not vacating it.
Yeah,
So
that's another
it's
thing.
just pissing people off. But Harbaugh,
But they
he's gonna
also haven't
stay
released
and
the
win
whole
some
report
more.
yet from that investigation, which we're not going to see until midway through the summer. Everybody needs to let the NCAA work at their snail pace and let them tell us eventually that Michigan, had just one or two bad apples in the bunch, and that was it. Mitch, I agree. Here's the thing: as a Buckeye, selfishly biased, I want Harbaugh gone because it'd be easier to beat Michigan. And it'd be easier for Ohio State
Yeah,
to
well,
win the
when you
Big
have
Ten
Ryan
championship,
Day,
easier for us to get back to the playoffs. But that doesn't mean we're better than him. I'd rather beat him down so much that he leaves. And that's nearly what happened 3 years ago. We kept on beating them, and he nearly left. And he is, I think he still hasn't signed his extension that Michigan offered. So the info is still out. But there's only been 4 coaches since the AP polls began in the 1930s that left their schools that they won a national championship
Dabo.
right after winning a national championship. Um, Josh Harbaugh isn't fond of the South. Dabo or Dan Lanning on my picks. I do
Dabo,
not
oh
see Dabo
God.
Sweeney.
Finish your
I
thing,
don't
Red,
see
because
Dabo.
I don't Dabo, no.
No,
God, no. He's not leaving
I think
Clemson.
I don't. I want to know who the fucker is that originally thought Dabo Sweeney. Interesting. What the fuck are you thinking? Dabo Sweeney hates Alabama's guts. He's an old school football coach. He barely knows how to operate a transfer portal, let alone how to operate
Yeah,
an SEC football
exactly.
team. So I don't think
Exactly.
Dabo is going anywhere near Alabama except to beat their ass, and that's it. And honestly, they probably will unless they actually schedule them for a non-conference game. Do it, cowards. Dan Lanning is an option, but I've also heard of Quinn, the coordinator from the Cowboys. He could be an option. Some pro
Dan
teams were
Quinn,
scouting him
oh
out.
God.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
but now
Quinn
that
could be an
Carroll's out
option.
in
That's another
Seattle,
name. He was getting looks by NFL teams, and there's reports that Seattle was pursuing him, but now that Saban is out, that's a really good fucking gig, Alabama. That beats Seattle, I would think. The money they'll probably try to match whoever they sign, they'll match him to an NFL contract, I bet, in terms of pay, so that way they don't go fucking off to the next job that opens up. But I right now I think Dan Lanning is naturally whatever. That's what everybody's pointing at. That's what everybody's saying. Like Dan Lanning, Dan Lanning, Dan Lanning. Maybe DeBoer. Conspiracy theories say Lane Kiffin and Dabo Sweeney. Some people say Quinn. I don't know. But it is an awful, awful situation to be walking into because no matter who they bring in, a good chunk of your starters are going to be gone. I honestly think. Another one here. Another unrelated comment. My dad got me and him locker room Rose Bowl merch. Oh, that's cool. Good for you, dude. That's cool.
Dan Sanders posted looking eyes emoji, Alabama players tap in. So trying to get people to come to Colorado. So yeah, that's
I don't
another
blame him.
now I think Deion Sanders truly becomes the coach that unless you're like Kirby Smart or Jim Harbaugh, Deion is like the other coach that everybody wants.
I'm calling time out there. Let's pump the fucking brakes. Hold on a second. Okay, listen. Dion has a hell of a mouth on that man. He's very charismatic. He is very popular. But I do not believe that Dion has the same amount of sway going into this offseason that he did last offseason for recruiting and transfers. Transfers, he's doing a little bit better on, but recruiting, he has been 50th, I think, in the mid 50s in terms of recruiting classes after their 4-8 record. He needs to really hit the transfer portal hard. So I think that he'll be able to poach a guy or two from Alabama. I don't think he'll get any big names. Like I don't think he'll get any of their top receivers or anything like
That's
that.
possible,
They need
but
offensive linemen though, so
yeah.
maybe they could
So
poach a few guys from there.
yeah. So you know what's crazy? The fact that Carroll is no longer head coach in Seattle and then Saban retires. It's funny because Quirky Research on Twitter posted this. In 1980, Nick Saban replaced Pete Carroll as Ohio State's secondary coach. Saban was an assistant at West Virginia at the time. The Ohio State was coached by Earl Bruce, and he became the defensive
Saban
secondary
was an
coach
assistant, yeah.
when Pete Carroll left after the Rose Bowl to go become the defensive coordinator at NC State. That is
Right.
wild.
Ohio State traditionally has a hell of a factory for coaches. I mean, you could name a lot of the top coaches that have ever been, to the top. Lou Holtz, Bo Schembechler, Nick Saban, Urban Meyer. A lot of guys have been through Ohio State because while that's also a pro football factory, that place is renowned for training some of the best head coaches we have ever seen. So I know Alabama. I mean, Luke Fickell, for example. I love Luke Fickell. He was the man that took the University of Cincinnati to the college football playoffs. And he's
Yep,
an
I
Ohio
didn't know what
State
happened.
guy. He was the interim head coach for Ohio State when they were on probation before they hired Urban Meyer. And he served under Urban Meyer for a few years before he went to the UC. And now he's over at Wisconsin trying to rebuild their program. And I think they're going to have great success the next couple of years once they really get that recruiting class down. But
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be. I don't think there's anybody at Ohio State right now that really jumps off the page for a new head coach for Alabama.
No, definitely not.
And
I
that
mean,
is just there's no names that I can think of that have really stuck themselves out, especially
I don't even
after
know enough
the
about
abysmal
coaches.
performance in the Cotton Bowl, the losses to Michigan. Nobody's really standing out right now. What was his name, though, at the University of Michigan? The African American coach that took over for Harbaugh at the end of the season. What the fuck was his name? I can't remember. If somebody in the comments could tell me what his name is, I would appreciate the help. I could see him maybe going to Alabama if Harbaugh stays. And the reason why I say that is because that man, the passion that he exudes, won me over. And I'm an Ohio State fan, but that man won me over. The passion he shows, the pride he takes in his team. Repeat that. The African American assistant coach, I think he was the offensive coordinator. I specify that because I can't remember his name.
I
I'm
mean,
sorry. The African American assistant coach that took over for Harbaugh towards the end of the season when Harbaugh was suspended. Sharon Moore. Thank you, Josh Smith. His name is Sharon Moore. Thank you. I forgot
yeah,
his name.
he's
Sharon
like the
Moore.
O-line coach.
Okay, yeah. So he was one of the coordinators. I could see him maybe getting a few looks because, to be able to take a team like Michigan and really lead them through some really hard games against Penn State and Maryland, that is a guy that I would love to see, get a chance at Alabama. Alabama is going to be kind of working and doing a little bit of a rebuild with all these guys that they're going to be losing to the portal. So I could see Sharon Moore maybe getting a few looks. But Dan Lanning, for whatever reason, the pundits and the insiders, they're all saying his name. Billy,
Fuck off. Fuck
Billy.
you. Fuck
Adam
you.
Gase, the next Bama coach.
You.
I feel like Sharon Moore would stay at Michigan one more year. Do you think that, honestly, if Alabama approached him with the head coaching gig? I think Harbaugh would call him an
but
idiot.
he's never been a head coach before. That's aside from being
That's
the
true. That's true.
That's
I'm kind of grasping at straws here because I don't see Alabama just jumping to Dan Lanning like that.
Yeah, the article that I found, like talking about who would become head coach if Harbaugh left, like it mentions like in the section about Sharon, none of the guys on his staff have ever been head coaches. I do believe so. They would need more seasoning.
Okay,
again,
but I mean, he's had plenty of seasoning underneath Jim Harbaugh.
It's just, no, please no.
I mean, Sharon Moore's had plenty of seasoning underneath Jim Harbaugh. I think he's going to get a good opportunity somewhere in the very near future.
I mean, fair.
Whether it be to take over as the coach of Michigan or if it would be to go to Alabama. Josh Sam, Bama has reached out to Dabo Swinney, Neil Brown, and Dan Lanning. Do you have a source? I'm honestly curious to see what the source is on that. I'm not saying I don't believe you. I'm not surprised that they would reach out, but I want to know who's reporting that crap. If you can just give me a name.
So Pete Thamel tweeted, and I just searched up Dabo Sweeney, Alabama on Twitter.
Okay.
Pete Thamel says, with no likely internal replacements at Alabama, here's a quick projected list: Dan Lanning, Kalen DeBoer, Dabo Sweeney, James Franklin, Mike Norvell, and Marcus Freeman. All come with complications and big buyouts, as it's difficult to move entrenched coaches. That's like the only. That's like the only like and then Coward says 2 sources confirmed to me late this afternoon that Bama athletic director Greg Byrne, knowing that Nick Saban time was always a possibility, has had his eyes on Kalen DeBoer for some time. Byrne is highly respected. And then somebody quote tweeted and said the top 3 would be like Kiffin, Sweeney, and Sarkisian, but it's some random account.
Where is
But yeah,
Neil
no,
Brown coaching right now? I'm completely.
the
I can.
Samuel tweet is the most is the one that you're probably looking at here.
Who is? Where is Neil Brown coaching at the moment? I can't remember for the life of me. I'm drawing a complete blank. Today has been absolutely
Hold on,
insane.
let me look.
Oh shit, Josh, you're right. They have to go to Wisconsin to play against Luke Fickell in the upcoming season.
He's
That's
currently
going
the
to be
head
a
coach
great game.
at West Virginia.
Oh yeah, my old friends at West Virginia. That video is
West
still getting a ton
Virginia.
of views.
They're fucking inevitable.
Oh my God! Congrats, West Virginia. You're about to absolutely get shafted by Alabama because I remember, like, that's kind. Hey, imagine that Neil Brown becomes the next great Alabama coach. Can you imagine the salt in West Virginia after? Because that is where Bobby Bowden came from. Was West Virginia? We went from West Virginia to Florida State. They lost Bobby Bowden to Florida State back in the 70s. Can you imagine just the sheer embarrassment of that if that were to happen? Poor West
Oh my
Virginia.
god, no, that'd be fucking hilarious.
Maybe Neil Brown for defensive coordinator, not head coach. Okay, I could maybe see that, but then who the fuck is going to be the head coach? I mean, I think in that case, then they must be pretty confident they could land a Dan Lanning or a Dabo Sweeney in that case. But I genuinely do not think Dabo is going to take that job. I like the one thing I'm hearing a lot of, and that I've seen this last season. Dabo needs to learn how the fucking transfer portal works. He really does. He did not effectively work on the transfer portal at all last offseason. This offseason, I don't know how they're doing at the moment, but I would not be going for Dabo. You need somebody young. You need somebody that has had success, but is young enough and is in touch with the current landscape of college football to know how to use the current layout to their success. I do not think that's Dabo Sweeney at this time. He'll adjust, but I don't think he's there yet.
Yeah, no. That's the thing is like anybody that detests the transfer portal, like you have got to have. I think there's legitimate reasons why Dabo doesn't like it, but I think I think at the end of the day, so much of it boils down to like the players are getting the money from NIL, which they fucking deserve, by the way. But
Absolutely.
the NCAA doesn't want to regulate anything. Is not regulating. Yeah, fucking Christ, things enough, and it's pissing people off. And I get it. Because now people are like, well, now the players are just gonna play for themselves, which they already do that. But like,
yeah, how do you think they go into the draft?
And I think there should be some caps on it. But like, also, but you have to play. To quote Triple H's theme song, "It's time to play the game. It's all about the game and how you play it." Like, come on now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It is a. You got to look at it from you got to look at it with a very wide lens here. Like Alabama could probably grab whoever the fuck they honestly want. If they really want Dabo Sweeney, they'll hire him. If they really want Dan Lanning, they'll hire him. If they really want Lane Kiffin, they'll hire him. Neil Brown, they'll hire him. Alabama is the blue blood chip gold standard of college football. Even with Saban gone, they are still the top game. Michigan won the national championship. Alabama hasn't won a national championship since the COVID season. That doesn't mean that Alabama's prestige has dimmed because of this. Alabama is still the most prestigious school you could go to coach in college football. That's not going to change anytime soon. What could change it is making the wrong hire and absolutely shitting the bed the next few seasons. Next season is going to be a testy one for Bama fans. They got to be patient with whoever the fuck comes in and takes over. I'm expecting 8-4, 9-3. Right, just saying that now. They're probably going to lose at least 3 or 4 games due to the shock and due to the after effects of Saban leaving. If they actually go to the playoffs, I will be sort of surprised, to be honest. There's one more thing I really wanted to touch base on. Oh God, that's my train of thought.
I mean, do you want to make the argument that Nick Saban is the best head coach in all of college football history, and like who the top 5 of the 10 would be?
I don't think you need to make an argument. I think it's just a fact. Saban is the greatest college football coach, not only of the modern era, but I think of all time. The dominance that he showed, the number of championships he's won. Only Bear Bryant, Paul Brown, and a handful of others have been to his level, and even still, he's won more championships than all of them. So I believe, without a doubt, that he is the greatest college football coach to ever do it. It's just gonna, there's gonna be debates on that for many a year to come, and it's never gonna probably be fully settled. But I do honestly believe that with my heart. That just makes the most sense. Now, what I really want to touch on, to kind of put a bow on this, how do you think this is going to affect the college football playoffs without Alabama being in the running? I don't think Bama's going to be in the playoffs next season. I genuinely don't.
Even with
The
12
highest hide. Absolutely the GOAT. No argument whatsoever from Josh Smith. I'm glad we all agree on that. But I mean, do we think Alabama is going to have a bit of a slump next season? Genuinely, do you think that they're going to be able to maintain momentum? It's too early to say, but I mean, we can overreact all we want right now. This is the story of the year, and it's January 10th.
So, okay, here's the thing. Even with the top 12, I don't think, yes, there's gonna be a lot of teams that are gonna have a lot of changes due to recruiting and the transfer portal and everything else. I think the only teams that are necessarily a lock to make the top 12 for next year, arguably, are Michigan and Georgia. I think you can make an argument that Texas gets in. I think you make an argument that as long as Dan Lanning stays in Oregon, they get in. But, what about literally everybody else? And I think there's only Colorado should theoretically improve, especially if they improve on the defensive and offensive lines. Other teams are going to have all these changes. It really just does become a question of it's going to be chaos. And the thing is that with the 12-team playoff, if Alabama is anywhere close to a wild card bid, then somehow, some way, they're gonna fucking get in because the committee
They'll get the benefit of the doubt like they usually do.
It won't be.
Here's the one thing that I'm going to say: if anybody is still saying that there's an SEC bias next season, I hate to tell you, stop blaming Alabama.
Exactly.
It's not just been Alabama. You got to keep in mind, before Alabama was a national champion in 2009, 2010, Florida won 2 years before that. LSU had won the year before that. Alabama is just kind of became the gold standard. And even still, during that run of dominance, you still had your Floridas, you still had your LSUs, and you have your Georgias. The SEC will remain the goal. I believe the SEC, despite not being in the national championship this year, is still the gold standard of college football, just because of the amount of teams that theoretically will make the playoff and could win the fucking thing. Because Ole Miss is going to be right there. Georgia, obviously. Tennessee is going to be in the running. Alabama could sneak their way in. Florida's trying to rebuild. A&M's trying to rebuild. Missouri's going to theoretically be in the hunt. I mean, at least four of those teams could be in the playoff next season, at least. And that's almost
Yeah,
half of
but
your fucking field
that's
right
where
there.
the realignments all come in because the fact that we're getting the
Hmm
12-team playoff at the same time as the realignments,
Yeah, I agreed,
Texas
Hyde.
and Oklahoma moving, all the Pac-12 teams moving, everybody, just basically everybody moving. It's gonna college football going into
I
this.
didn't even mention Texas and Oklahoma. Yeah. Here's the thing with Texas and Oklahoma, though. Oklahoma just lost their quarterback to Oregon, right?
Uh-huh.
Their star quarterback, the future of
Hello.
their team, has transferred. Texas is going to be on a down year next year. They got to get that defense. They got to get a defense that's going to be able to stop this SEC attack. They've been
Oh yeah,
sitting in
and
there with a bunch of
also
Big
are they
12
losing
schools.
Ewers? Is it Ewers going to the draft, and then they've got Archie
Maybe I haven't.
or Arch?
I don't know
Sorry.
if he's declared yet or not. There's a good chance that he stays, but if he doesn't, then it's Arch Manning time. I don't know how that's going to go. We got a couple of good comments right here. The SEC has 17 rings with five schools in the past 25 years. ACC, Big Ten are tied at three. No SEC bias. I agree begrudgingly, of course. Mitch Fan, especially with Texas and Oklahoma, there will be a lot of SEC teams in the playoffs next year. I agree. I'm going to say at least four teams from the SEC will make the playoffs next year, and they don't include Alabama. They do luck out by getting my dogs at home, but they are at Tennessee. They get Mizzou at home, Auburn at home, but they also go to Oklahoma, which may or may not be good next year. I think Sarkisian is doing a hell of a job at Oklahoma. So I think Oklahoma is going to be a big pain in the ass for whoever they have to go against next season, I believe for sure. It's going to be a tough one to put down if they're not as good as they should be. 24 playoffs are going to be fun to watch. Agreed. They also got to go to LSU. That's going to be a tough one. Even with Jaden Daniels going to the draft, LSU is always dangerous. And Mitch agrees with Armstrong Addy. Yeah. The ramifications of this decision are not going to be felt until August. We got 7 months to mull this over. I don't think anybody in their right mind will uh, think for a minute that Alabama is truly out of it until we get to the game against Wisconsin and they get to their conference schedule. I mean, Josh, you also make a good point. August got to go to Tuscaloosa next year. They're going to be on a mission after their SEC championship loss. It's not going to be pretty, I'm afraid to say. And yes, they absolutely will by Hild. Hyde, I should say. Hyde, sorry. We're not going to know what the ramifications are for what has transpired today for college football for months. We're going to be keeping an eye on recruiting. We're going to be keeping an eye on transfers. We're going to be keeping an eye on all that shit. But until they actually get on the grass and they're on the fields getting ready for the game, you're not going to know. Hyde, I think Joe answered you because it came out of nowhere. But no, it really did come out of nowhere. That's why everybody's up in arms. Like this is the biggest retirement in college football history. That goes without saying. Like, I don't care who the fuck has retired before Nick Saban. This is the biggest. This is going to be the longest. This is going to be the furthest reaching. This is going to be the biggest in terms of consequences.
And you can
And
say that you saw
Hyde,
people declaring it a month ago, but like nobody truly knew because it's always all speculation. Signed a 4-year deal
he
with
signed a
ESPN.
4-year deal with
Okay, yeah.
ESPN, but that
And
4-year
Brady
deal
signed a
doesn't
deal
kick
with
in.
Fox before he actually retired for the second time.
It's
Like,
true.
come on.
Coaches like we there was obviously signs that people you can if you read the tea leaves, there's signs that people will say after the fact, oh, this should have been a dead giveaway. It's really not. It's not. Saban did not have to start that contract until he was done in Alabama. He could have left at any time he wanted. Brady did the same thing with Fox. Breeze did the same thing with NBC. Manning did the same. Well, not really Manning, but you know what I mean. Like
Which one?
you sign a post retirement deal. Most of those contracts will say when you retire, not retire by 2024. When you retire, come work for us for a few years. Josh Smith again. Obviously, Saban will have the final vote on who gets hired. Are we sure about that? Are we sure about that? I don't think Saban's going to have the final vote. I think this is a clean separation. I honestly do think that. Why would Saban, not the final vote per se, but a major? I mean, that is an interesting thing to ponder. Does Saban have a say in who comes next? I don't think he does. This is a clean break. I think that everybody that is, involved with the University of Alabama for the next head coach search, if they want an opinion from Saban, I'm sure they will ask him for it. But it's not going to be up to Saban per se. He's not going to have the final vote, like you said, Josh. But I don't think he's going to have a major influence on who comes next, especially if he's got an ESPN deal coming where he has to try to act impartial. I mean, Kirk Herbstreit is a Buckeye, and you see that he has to be impartial for Ohio State games. When games he's not calling, he cannot make a pick for because he can't. He's not allowed to give away his favorites, right? So Saban, it's going to have to be the same way. It can't be a two-way street where you can be an impartial ESPN contributor, but you can still help out Alabama when you want to, right? It's got to be a clean. It's got to be a clean break. It has to be. Otherwise, the team's never going to fully move on, and they're never going to go to the next era. They're not going to go to the next thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Hyde made a comment a minute ago about him signing a 4-year deal with ESPN that I genuinely did not know about or remember, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. He has to try really, really hard at that. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I don't think it's going to be that hard for him to be impartial. Shannon Hunter, welcome to the show. Dan Lanning isn't leaving Oregon. I hope for Allen's sake you're right because he is a duck. Poor bastard. Couldn't even beat a couple of dogs. What the fuck is wrong with your team, dude?
Fuck you. You couldn't beat Michigan and you couldn't beat Missouri. So
Hey, Michigan won the national championship. That's my defense. What the fuck did Washington do?
Yeah, no, I still have. Yeah, no. Fuck you for beating us in assholes. Got fucking Zeke Elliott running all over our asses. God damn it.
All right. Right now, we're going to just leave it off. I agree, Hyde. Mizzou is damn good. I will respect the hell out of Mizzou. They kicked our ass in the Cotton Bowl. We're going to probably leave it off at that. To recap, like we mentioned, I think there was a lot of good shit that was discussed in this stream tonight. Obviously, it's going to be available on demand. If you missed this, if you missed some of this, feel free to watch it again later. But once again, Saban is going to retire from Alabama. He did make it official a little bit before I uploaded my video. Make sure to mention that in there. But he's gone, and the search has begun for Alabama's next head coach. And we will see how things go. Josh Smith with the final call. Let's Byron flashback for Allen LOL War Eagle. Thanks for doing the stream. Hey, man, thanks for being here. I appreciate you all showing up. And thanks to Alan for dropping by to say hello, kind of last minute. This is a last minute stream. And this is a half-ass shit show stream, but I appreciate all of y'all for being here. So, couple of Alan, you want to plug anything that you're working on, buddy?
Oh my God. I've been meaning to do a prediction. I wanted to do a prediction stream for the playoffs these last couple days, and I just haven't done it. So I'm probably just gonna do a video between now and Friday, between now and like Saturday or something. I don't. Gotcha. Thanks, Jaleel tweeted, or Lanning isn't leaving, whether he was told that or not, but he tweeted that. Okay. I mean, if Lanning's not leaving, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Then it's going to go to
thank you.
Neil Brown, maybe DeBoer, maybe.
If Lanning does not leave, I'm going to be the happiest motherfucker alive. Please, God, please.
And in terms of channel news, make sure if you're not already, subscribe to Alan Nadeau for his content as well. How many subscribers are you at right now, man?
Huh?
How many subs are you at?
How many am I at? Yeah. Oh fuck! I already have YouTube pulled up, so I'm just gonna fucking look.
I know you're over 1,000. We're catching up.
Yeah.
We're gonna catch your ass. Thanks, Shannon. I appreciate you subscribing to this channel. Glad to have you.
Literally right now, I'm at 1,066. I am. Thanks to all the shorts that I posted from like being at multiple wrestling shows the last few days or the last few days of 2023. That helped a lot.
Yep.
I want to post consistently. It feels like it's like I'm busy with work and I'm getting back in online college again. And I also I procrastinate like a motherfucker. So it's
Tell me
like,
about it.
ah,
Tell me about it. Um, Here on my channel, Red 5478. Obviously, we just dropped our reaction video to which was basically a condensed version of this live stream. It's only a couple of minutes long, giving my 2 cents on
watch
the
them
take
after.
for what happened and what's going to happen next. But um, I'm going to try to have part two of a history of the national championship games out, the BCS part that I have been revising the script on. Editing hasn't begun yet, voiceovers haven't begun yet because I needed to expand. I learned a few lessons on the last video, so I'm expanding the research to make sure I actually get everything right this time instead of having one or two things I completely miss on. But I'm hoping to have that out sometime this weekend. You guys that are newly subscribed, just keep on a lookout for that. But once again, my name is Red, and the guy below me is out in the dough. And we will catch y'all whenever we catch y'all. Thanks for stopping by. Y'all have a good night now.
Let's go.